Hello everyone, welcome to another match preview. Today I am here with Daniel, son of Chelsea. Say hello.
What's up?
Right, now, just as we've managed to start hitting some form, we have completely out of form Newcastle. And that's happening tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. away from home. So Newcastle will be at home for this one at St. James's Park. And a lot of people would think this would be a really straightforward, easy game. Probably the game that will get McLaren sacked. Am I not right? but probably far from it. Has Mourinho ever won at St. James's Park?
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't, has he? So it's a bit on and off.
He did win in the League Cup in his first season, funny enough. In his first season, he did win in the League Cup. I think it was like the fourth round or whatever. But in the league, he just hasn't. I got a tweet earlier today saying, well, most of the times we played Newcastle, it's been past when we won the league. For his first two seasons, that was the case. But past then, it's been mostly before we won the league or, a good time in the season. He hasn't been able to win there. And to be honest, recently, even without Jose, we were still struggling. We've always struggled up there for some reason. It's rare to get wins up there.
It is very, very rare. And Newcastle is a really, really hard place to go to. So I don't know. We've seen how they've been this season, and they've been bad. Really bad. I mean, it's shocking. Absolutely shocking. The only team worse than them is Sunderland, and that's pretty much expected. But Newcastle sitting 19th in the league at the moment with only 2 points, level bottom with Sunderland on 2 points, and they've just played disastrous. And midweek they lost to Sheffield Wednesday in the League Cup. So it's just they are completely out of order at the moment. For us to not go there and win, I mean, that would be a disaster, wouldn't it, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it would. I think even after Sheffield Wednesday, I was sitting there thinking I'm not taking any of this kind of form going into the game very seriously because I know what Newcastle are like. I know the fact that they've come into games with us before and been so out of form, and then they just still beat us because we, for some reason, don't turn up against Newcastle at St. James's Park, at least in recent times. Because Newcastle, for some reason, I mean, Jose said it in his press conference before they beat us last year. He said they only seem to turn up against Chelsea, and it's the same for Sunderland. Yeah. Like at home, they only seem to turn up against Chelsea, and that's the weird thing because it seems everyone goes up there and gets about 3 points. But actually, maybe playing them at this, because we usually play them in like November, kind of winter time. Yeah. Maybe playing them at this time is actually quite good. Newcastle seem to run like. Usually during a season, they have a decent run of form, and usually that comes kind of at November, kind of December time when we played them last year. Yeah. So hopefully playing them earlier on in the season when the crisis has kind of already started there, hopefully that will work in our favour. Of course, we should go up there and win. Luckily, the last 2 years we played there, they've been early kickoffs, 12:45 kickoffs, which I don't think helps. This year it's a 5:30 kickoff, which I think maybe in some way works in our favour because sometimes I think 12:45, especially if you're going up north, as we've seen with Everton this year, if you're going up north at 12:45 kickoff and you ain't in good form or you ain't up for the game, you're going to struggle, especially in the Premier League. So for the game to be a little bit later actually could help us in a way, but we have to win tomorrow. We just have to break that kind of bad spell. Jose went to Aston Villa last year, broke that kind of hoodoo at Villa Park. Yeah, I was there for that game. Recently, we beat West Brom, which we've had a bad run of format for quite a while and won there. So hopefully this will be the third in a row and we'll go up there and beat Newcastle because I think it will just add to the good form. 4 wins in a row, just a confident performance, I think. I'd say any win at this point, but I'd still like, because of considering how we played last week and considering all the media pressure around Chelsea still, even though we won last week, I still think I'd like to see an assured performance, because in truth, like the true Geordie, I was watching his preview, and he's dead certain we're going to go and smash Newcastle.
Mate, he is sure we're going to beat them 5-0.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go as far to say that, but I'd like to. I think it would be really confident for, especially mentally, I think for us, knowing, for the fans and the club, knowing that we've struggled there. If we were to go there and put in like a 3-0 performance, that would really be a big layer down, big marker down, because we've beaten Arsenal. Because the worst thing you want to do is win against Arsenal and then the next week go and blow it against Newcastle. It would just be horrible. It'd probably be worse. You'd just be sitting there going, oh, like, and you'd be back to square one really after. And really, we can't afford City United, the teams in front of us, to gain any more ground, and get more in front of us, so we have to keep winning, have to keep the confidence going. And hopefully tomorrow, with the fact, other than Costa, we have a really strong squad, I think it's looking good.
It is, I think so. By the way, shout out to Faro17. I'm sure you know about Faro17. But quite a lot of us know he's currently in the chat. He's watching. Hello, mate. Good to see you on here. Check out his channel. He does amazing Chelsea videos. An amazing producer. So do check it out. He has said, thanks, guys. You just know Newcastle will show up and play like Barca tomorrow. I mean, and as you've mentioned the True Geordie. True Geordie, an amazing comment, came out and said yesterday, the only way Newcastle are going to get a result against Chelsea is if Newcastle come out with machine guns, shoot all the Chelsea players dead, and then put the ball in the net. That's the only way. So someone who knows Newcastle, through and through, like the True Geordie, has already given up, pretty much. And someone has also said here, against Sheffield Wednesday, they didn't just lose against Sheffield Wednesday. They lost to a second string Sheffield Wednesday. That was apparently half of their reserve team playing against Newcastle. And
Newcastle had a good side out.
Yeah,
they
which is
get a shot target till the 85th minute, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. That was it. The 85th minute was where Newcastle had their first shot on target. Honestly, I know we've been bad recently, okay, and we've started to pick up good form. But I'm sorry, if we don't win tomorrow, unless if Newcastle come out as the Newcastle that we really know, I'll be shocked. I will be really, really bamboozled how we don't leave with 3 points. But, Newcastle, and as a few on the comments have said, against us, they can just show up. They can just, they can show up like Alan Shearer still playing for them. Are you worried of that at all? Or are you really confident that we're going to go there and nick 3 points?
I wouldn't say I'm really confident because, yeah, we've had, 3 good wins, but we're not exactly at the form we were going into the game, funny enough, last season, where you'd probably say we're really confident. I think I think we beat Spurs 3-0 or something going into the game. There was talk of us going invincible for that season last year going into the game. So I was definitely more confident last year. I think, of course, you've got to be worried because Newcastle, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Newcastle as a club. Yeah. I feel sorry for their fan base. I've said it on here before. I don't think you can make a comparison between Sunderland and Newcastle. I think it's really disrespectful to Newcastle when I hear the pundits and the people in the media going that Sunderland sell out their seats, like sell out their ground every week. That's just not the case. It's a big difference between the clubs. Sunderland have a big stadium, but Newcastle have a big stadium and fill it out even during bad periods. And you've just got to give respect to all of those fans who turn up each week. And I feel that Newcastle, in a way, you just look at that club and you think, with the right investment, they can be a Champions League club. You look at the stadium, look at the fan base. It's literally kind of the heart of that club, and the city is so, what's the word? It's so football mad, and people who go up there talk about how big they are into football. Like everyone is just so associated with the club. And, the fact it's being run so badly, they seem to be in a crisis every year. Their players just don't seem to be up for it. But they do against Chelsea. And, I think the fact that maybe sometimes because we're Chelsea, that probably amps up the crowd wherever we go because of people just don't like us.
Yeah.
Also, the fact is Newcastle, if they can get some of their players like Sissoko running forward, their crowd, because it's so big, can create a lot of noise. And I think, as we've seen in the past, we know more than anyone that it can have an effect and it can really make an impact on the game. They can become like a 12th man, but that usually isn't the case because the crowd kind of seems dead, because usually they're quite depressed. I think it all depends on the start tomorrow. I think if you've seen recent games with Newcastle, I'll take the last two examples. We haven't had a good start. We went 1-0 down. Last year we went 2-0 down. We lost 2-0 the year before. It's about the mentality going into the game. Hopefully, because it's a 5:30, as I say, we came out quite sluggish and slow in the last 2 years. Yeah. And I think maybe that has something to do with the 12:45. Hopefully we come out all guns blazing, really get in front, because it's going to be a completely different game to the one against Arsenal, because the one against Arsenal, we were kind of more defensive and we were waiting to counter on them. I think this game we're going to be looking to attack, because I don't think Newcastle will come out all guns blazing. I mean, they might do, but I think
their confidence is sleeping big time.
Yeah, so we've really got to get into that. We've got to get crosses into the box. We've got to close down their players. Luckily, we've got players now coming back into form. So you have the likes of Oscar, even like playing Kennedy. I don't think Kennedy will start, and even bringing on Kennedy during the match, I think could be a massive thing, because pace on the wing. Pedro, Hazard now coming back into a bit of form. Fabregas, players like that coming back into form at a crucial time after a bad period of form. I think it will help us. And if we can have that intensity, that aggressiveness that we've shown, as I keep on pointing out, because it wasn't there in the first part of the season, the first few games of the season, that has been brought back in Tel Aviv and Arsenal the other night, was pretty much a walkover. So I wouldn't say it was the same, but especially those two games, especially the Arsenal game, just have some intensity. I've seen too often us go up there and just be sluggish in the first half, expect things to happen. And because Newcastle are a Premier League team, they grow in belief, because they haven't conceded against Chelsea. They're not 2 or 3-0 down. No. And because they maybe get a lucky deflection or a lucky chance, and they put that in the back of the net, and you're 1-0 down, and then you've got a mountain to climb up there. So I think it all depends on the start. If we can get a quick start, get a quick goal, I think it changes the whole complexity of the game, and I think we can get a few, because I think Newcastle's heads will drop.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think an early goal, or at least if we score first within the first half, we need to up our goal difference, because our goal difference is shambolic. We've conceded 12, and that's unheard of. For someone like Chelsea, that is absolutely unheard of. We do not concede 12 in a season, let alone in the first 6 games. So we need to up our goal difference, definitely. However, your lineup tomorrow, who would you play? Because as you've said, there are a few players who have come back and they've hit form again. Considering that, and considering the new players who have actually been given a chance recently, who would you play in your starting lineup tomorrow?
Well, in my heart, I think I'd probably play Baba Rahman and Azpilicueta on the right back and left back position. But my head is telling me that Jose is going to play literally the exact same team as he did last week, except for Costa, of course, because he's suspended. Either Remy. I think Remy will probably start, actually, in my opinion, because I think he scored in midweek, and I think the fact is he's playing against his old club, so he'll probably have motivation to score against them. I'd like to see Falcao start, though, but that's kind of my feelings that he'll go with that, But we could see changes. It's kind of difficult at the moment to kind of predict what Jose is going to do, because he does have options. Does he bring in John Terry back into the team? Does he keep Ivanovic, or does he bring Baba Rahman in and shift Azpilicueta out wide? Does he bring back Willian in, who's now fit? Where does he fit, or does he keep with the same? I personally would stick with, maybe the only addition I'd make is maybe switching the fullbacks. Other than that, and bringing maybe Falcao in, I'd probably stick with exact same team, other than that, just all the same position. So Begovic, of course, Azpilicueta, Baba Rahman, Cahill, Zuma, midfielder Fabregas and Matic. We didn't have Matic last year, which I think was an impact, did have an impact in the game, because we had Mikel, and I think that was an area where we got exploited last year at Newcastle. Three behind a striker. I'd probably maybe bring Willian in, but I'd probably still stick with Pedro. Got to go in midweek. Feeling fit at the moment. Oscar, of course, Hazard and Falcao. That would be the team I'd go with. But I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Ivanovic on the team sheet, and I wouldn't be surprised to see John Terry back in the team. But things could change very quickly. But I'd probably just stick with that team, in my opinion. With maybe, I know people are going to have different opinions, but I personally stick with that team, especially the centre-back partnership at the moment. I just don't think you can change it. I think Zuma especially and Cahill just have looked like a brilliant partnership in the last couple of games. So I wouldn't personally change them.
Well, you make a good point. By the way, for everyone watching, do leave your lineups in the comments, and I will read out some of your suggestions. You make a good point about our centre backs and about Ivanovic. However, with Ivanovic, remember he played against Arsenal, and then he played against Walsall. And I made this point before we played Walsall. Does he play against Walsall and then play against Newcastle, and that's 3 games in 7 days? I don't think. Well, Ivanovic doesn't seem to have the legs for 1 game, let alone 3 games. And against Walsall, he did look pretty average. I don't know. I think Jose might actually go without Ivanovic tomorrow. I think he might actually, because to be fair, you have to look at the form that Newcastle are in. They don't look threatening whatsoever. And I think we can afford to be able to play Baba and Aspie with the pace they have to exploit Newcastle's wings. Because, again, fair play to Newcastle, but at the moment, they don't really look threatening. So I think we can probably take a few chances with our lineup tomorrow and not have to get everything perfect. So I would reckon, if it was me, I'd obviously play Begovic in goal because there's no one else. Not Blackman. Baba Rahman, Aspie. As for the centre-backs, again, it's a game where we can take a little bit of risk, probably. I would play John Terry just to see how he copes with 2 games in a row because, you can't just phase him out completely. I think he needs a bit of game time, regardless. So I'd probably play him. Zuma, Cahill, I really don't know because both of them have been on form. Probably Zuma more at the moment. In defensive mid, I'd definitely give Loftus-Cheek a go. Again, just for that confidence factor, to show that he has trust and faith in Loftus-Cheek to do the business against Newcastle at the moment. Alongside Matic, for sure, that would be a good partnership, which we really haven't seen at the moment. Loftus-Cheek and Matic, I think that would be colossus. Hazard, because you can't get rid of Hazard. Oscar, Pedro, and number 9, Falcao. With possibly Remy to come on, because Remy does look like he's finding a bit of form without Costa in the team. Whenever Remy's played, like last time he played in, oh my God, Louis made it. Hello, Lou.
Hello, you're right.
Not bad, thanks. Right, we're going through lineup, so get your lineup ready, mate.
Mate, I've always got my lineup ready.
Falcao, Remy, whenever he's played, so even against Walsall, had impact and he banged in the goal. So I think he might come on. But that would be my lineup. Louis, welcome.
Hello.
Talking about Newcastle and them not being much of a threat at the moment.
We say that.
In 19th. But exactly, yeah. Against us, it looks like they're playing Champions League final football. What's your thoughts on tomorrow? Do you think we'll do the business? Easy game? Or would you think it's hard? And what's your lineup?
Well, I think the games against Newcastle are always going to be difficult. They are our bogey team. I mean, we went up there last season, didn't we? And it was our first league defeat of the campaign.
Yeah.
And the season before we went up, I don't think we won then either. So past 2 seasons we've been up there, we haven't actually beaten them. Like you're saying, they tend to try and play Champions League football when they're playing against us in the league. So I think it'll be difficult. But I would probably start. I'd start Baba Rahman. I'd go Begovic, Baba Rahman, Cahill, Zuma, Azpilicueta, Matic, Fabregas, Oscar, Hazard, Pedro, and Falcao. So basically the normal starting 11.
Basic normal.
Yeah, I just go, see what we could get, and then I'd probably throw Remy on. So sort of if we were having issues attacking, I'd probably throw Remy on for probably for Fabregas maybe, and then just have two up front.
And Ivanovic, you'll leave out.
Yeah, of course. You know me. I think he played well against Arsenal, but I'm still not convinced. I mean, if he plays tomorrow and he plays brilliantly, then I might be convinced. But this season, I have not been convinced. Since pre-season, I've not been convinced. So even if he does well against Arsenal, he has to do well against other clubs as well.
Yeah, no, fair play. I mean, a lot of lineups that people are leaving here in the comments do suggest they pretty much do agree. Ivanovic hasn't been mentioned. They are going. For example, Nathan's put Begovic, Baba, Cahill, Zuma, Asby, Matic, Fabregas / Loftus-Cheek, probably as a sub he meant. Hazard, Oscar, and Fabregas as a sub for Oscar as well. Pedro and Remy. He's going with Remy. Another one going with Falcao up top. We've got Duyu Kalu going with Remy up top as well. All pretty much the same, except he says Loftus-Cheek should be given a go. Ferro17, to read his comment, says, would love for Falcao to play, but Remy still hasn't played against Newcastle, right? Would be good for him to play against his former club. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
Remy hasn't played against Newcastle, yeah, has he?
I think he came on in the 2-0 win, if I remember rightly. I think he came on definitely late on. He came on late on after we'd scored the 2 goals. I remember now. I think he came on. I could be corrected for that, but I do remember him coming on in that game as a substitute. It didn't have much of an impact in the game.
With Remy, would you play him from the beginning as for the reason of that he's playing against his old club, he'd want to do something against his old club, or do you think he'll be emotionally affected, and you'd stick Falcao there instead?
I don't know if he'd be emotionally affected because he was there for a year on loan. So I don't know. It's different, sort of having a massive connection with the club. I mean, I guess with Newcastle there was the whole French connection sort of thing going on.
There was.
So you got all the French players there. They actually have a French day. It's ridiculous. And they're all there just doing their stuff. And so maybe he has emotional connections with some of the players. I doubt it would affect his overall game. I really doubt it because he was only there for a year on loan, so he left an impact on him because of the amount of goals he scored for him. But I don't think it's going to be enough of an impact to sort of say I feel massively affected by this club. It's got a massive place in my heart. Whereas maybe I hate to say at a club like QPR, who possibly gave him his first opportunity to come to the Premier League, maybe have a bigger place in his heart, even if he didn't play for them that often because he was given the opportunity. But I don't think he'd be emotionally attached to Newcastle Football Club.
I mean, we have to give a little mention to Newcastle because obviously they've been off form, as I've said throughout this whole video. They look completely out of sorts, and McLaren is under immense pressure. Immense, like he's literally borderline about to be sacked. I think his win percentage at the moment is 14% or something stupid. Do you guys know?
They've only won one game this season, haven't they? And that's the League Cup second round. That's the only game they've won this season.
14% win ratio at the moment. I have no words for that sort of stat.
Let's if we just rein it in a bit. I mean, I doubt he's going to get sacked. I doubt it. I mean, it's only a few games in. You wouldn't go and jump it straight away and just sack him. Plus, to think the amount of money which Mike Ashley has invested in him as well, which he didn't invest in Alan Pardew and the best manager in Premier League history, John Carver. The money he didn't invest in them, he's invested in with Steve McLaren. With, for example, bringing in Chancel Mbemba from Anderlecht. Who else? Alexander Mitrovic from Anderlecht. All these players which they've brought in. He's invested in the club. He wants something out of it. So I doubt he'd sack Steve McLaren a few games into a season. I think if this sort of form carries on the next 10 games, maybe 5-10 games, I think that's when you'll start seeing whether he'll get the chop or not. But right now, I don't think he will.
Well,
But what, like, I was thinking, they were talking about how bad the start to the season's been, but like, is it really? It's pretty much the same as Alan Pardew's start to the season last year. I mean, pretty much. I mean, he had a terrible start to last season. I mean, I think they may have had a few more points, but still, it was a bad start to the season. Of course, I think
more points.
I think they got thumped at Southampton 4-0. Definitely know they made it further in the cup. Of course, I think they had more points, but Newcastle are known to have poor starts to the season. I think maybe there was some optimism in the first game against Southampton when they drew 2-2 and they scored a couple of goals, but since then I think the game at Swansea when they lost 2-0, Jan Mack got sent off. It just looked back to old kind of Newcastle of last year and everything's kind of gone downhill from there. Mitrovic has got himself sent off, and he could have been a good player for Newcastle, someone who could have kind of riled up the crowd, but it's gone completely the other way where he's just getting himself sent off stupidly. And now they've got no focal point up front really, other than Cisse, who has scored against us.
Sorry, Mitrovic is back tomorrow, isn't he?
I think he is.
He is.
Was it 3 games? Was it 3 games?
3, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
I think the thing is, I think Newcastle are one of those clubs. It's the same for Sunderland, and if I get any abuse for it, I completely take it. But I feel that Newcastle and Sunderland are those sort of clubs which would benefit from getting relegated to come back up.
I definitely think Sunderland.
Not Sunderland, but not Newcastle.
I don't think
the way that Newcastle. No, I'm afraid, but like with the way you were saying with Newcastle, they always their fans are just so optimistic. They're like they're like deluded Scousers, except not for the league, for mid-table. I mean, they're one of those clubs where. They're one of those clubs
I have to disagree with that.
But they don't.
I have to disagree with that. No.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Like, do you even watch the True Geordie? I know he's one out of millions of probably Newcastle fans, but
I do.
I don't think I think Newcastle fans, weirdly enough, get a hard time from the media for some stupid reason.
They're quite passionate, and I admire that.
I agree.
You probably missed it, but we were kind of talking about Newcastle, and I was talking about how much respect to have for the Newcastle fans, the fact they turn up week in, week out to support their club, even though their club is being badly run.
No, I do. I agree.
I don't think they're deluded. I think they have a right to expect more because they turn up every week in their thousands to that ground. They have an owner who doesn't really invest in the club, who seems to just be doing it for the profit of himself and the profit of sports director.
I should have completely reworded that. Yeah. I mean sorry.
Sorry. I mean, with Newcastle, it's different because you look at their history and where they were. Recently, we're not even looking too far back. We're looking at Alan Shearer. Not too long ago he retired. Newcastle were up there, and they were playing Champions League football, and they were there contending for the league, and they were there. They were there. You wouldn't even imagine Newcastle being in the bottom half of the table. Wouldn't even cross your mind. And now they find themselves relegation zone practically every single year, just surviving. It's sad. It is actually sad.
I mean, the fact that if you think about in terms of fan bases in the Premier League, even if we're talking about Britain as a whole, we're not including overseas here. We're talking as a whole. Newcastle is one of the largest fan bases in terms of who goes every week in, week out. They have a 70,000 seat stadium in St James's Park, or something ridiculous like that. People go week in, week out. To think how large that fan base is ridiculous. And the fact that I think I'm word it completely wrong. Deluded is completely the wrong word. You're right. They do deserve more, but they don't get it. And if you talk about clubs and how big their fan bases are, their fan base should be the focal point of every single club, and it should be able to, that's what motivates it, that's what gets it going. And if you're talking in terms of that, Newcastle will be near the top of the table.
Yeah.
They do deserve more, Newcastle United. I completely agree with that. I mean, so like I said, in terms of fan base, huge, and to think that where they are week in, week out, fighting to stay up, like you're saying, it is sad. But I mean, when I say they're one of those teams I think would benefit from relegation, I think the fact that maybe having the opportunity to rebuild, a bit like they did, where they had that one season, it was a few seasons after they came back up, but they've been rebuilding, and then they hit European spots with Pardew. They finished. Put it this way, they finished above us. They finished above us that season.
Yeah.
And then it just went downhill again. But I mean, I think in terms of that, if they did go down and they had the opportunity to rebuild again, I mean, there are some players there like True Geordie says, like Mike Williamson, who John Carver started week in, week out. Is he really a centre back you want to have?
Exactly.
If they had the opportunity to rebuild, I think they do really, really well. But it's just they either need to have that opportunity, or their players really do need to kick up the arse. But
Well, I mean, sorry, Steve McLaren's. This is from Du Kalu, by the way. Steve McLaren's last 21 matches. That's for Derby County and Newcastle. So his last 21 matches, he's only won 3, and he's lost the last 4 games in a row. I mean, if you're gonna exploit a team, there's no better time than now. Especially for us.
We say that, but I'm still our bogey team, and I'm there sitting.
Exactly, they are. Yeah. They are. Who from the Newcastle team do you feel we gotta watch out for tomorrow? I mean, they've got names. They've got a few, like Cisse, who has done us damage before and defied the laws of physics at Stamford Bridge. Let's not go back there. But Cisse, they got Sissoko. Any other names that you think can cause us damage tomorrow? Dan.
Yeah, I definitely think the names you mentioned there. Cisse's got a decent scoring record against Chelsea. I think he scored 2 last year. I think he scored both, if I remember rightly. He definitely scored one of them. I know that. Sissoko, Cisse. It's as well. I think Perez sometimes can do a good job for the team. As I said, Mitrovic, if he is back, which it looks like he is, 3 matches, so he's back tomorrow. This is the thing when people compare Costa, and this is kind of back to the FA sort of thing. But people talk about Costa and talk about how mad he is and all of that stuff. When I say that Costa is methodical, you look at Mitrovic, that's the worst kind of way of doing it. Blatantly going out, trying to just absolutely clatter the opposition players. Blatantly doing it. Trying to break their legs, it's just to me that's Costa does it to get in the opponent's head. Maybe some of his actions recently haven't been. I think he should have been sent off last week, probably. But that's when people can't. If you compare Mitrovic and Costa, you look at the two and you look at what they do on the pitch. Costa does it for a reason. Mitrovic, you just feel like he's an absolute nutter on the pitch. He just runs out there and can't hold himself but for nearly 5 seconds without getting a booking. That's a problem.
Yeah.
But if you look at Mitrovic and you look at what Newcastle, what they can make him into, is a good player that can hold up the ball and can allow players like Sissoko to run in behind, how do you say his name, Tovan, I think it is, who looked like a decent player, he seems like a lot of the players just seem to go missing, and hasn't seemed to, especially against Watford, a lot of their players didn't really seem cared, fussed about the result, which, against Watford at home, you should be beating Watford, and that's was an awful result, and probably for the pressure on McLaren probably increased after that result, definitely. So yeah, there's definitely players. The reason I play Babarama and Azpilicueta is because of the fact they can, if they are going to sit back and try and defend, to having the pace in the defence to counteract that and counteract the pace is definitely one thing. But I think if we, as I said to you, Eunice, if we can get an early goal, I think the game changes. I think their heads will drop, and I think we'll comfortably win the game. I think if it goes like in the past few years when we've gone up there, we usually go a goal behind, and that's late on in the second half. That's the worst thing. We've got to score before half time in this game, definitely.
No, for sure. Because we're bringing up players and Newcastle players who we think will cause danger. Ferro17 has just put in the comments, Papi Cisse and Tiote are out of the game versus Chelsea. They won't play. Jack Colback and Rolando Aarons will have a late test. So
Jack Colback's, yeah, that's pretty good. That's good. I mean, players like I know,
the best players. Wow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like what we're saying, Sissoko's dangerous. Definitely, I completely agree with that. He's a midfield engine. He's quick. He can get the ball. He's like Ramirez, but he's stronger. He's heavier built, and he can really fight for those challenges, and he can create things as well. Jack Colback is he'll be hungry because he's a Geordie. 2, it's his childhood club, and 3, he's decent on a good day. He's decent. So considering I keep saying they're our bogey team, tomorrow could be a good day for Jack Colback, and he could cause us massive issues. If it's a bad day for him, it's brilliant. Bad day at the office, we'll walk right through. But I know he hasn't done a lot this season thus far, but bogey team, all that sort of stuff again.
Yeah.
Giorgio Wijnaldum, who joined from PSV in the summer, I rate a lot as a player, and on a good day can cause a lot of damage. Those if you keep him quiet on a good day, you keep Colback quiet, you keep Sissoko quiet. If you keep those 3 in the midfield just pinned down, you'll be laughing. You'll be laughing at night as soon as the final whistle goes. Because if you stop that sort of those 3 who are the creative, the destroyers, if they are taken out of the game, we shouldn't have an issue, if you ask me. But
yeah,
it's
no,
them
for sure.
that I'd worry about the most.
Well, guys, tomorrow, score prediction. Dan.
I know this may sound confident, but I'm going to say 3-0. I just think that, I think it all depends on our mentality and our start to the game. I think if we can come out like we have in recent games, show aggression, fight for the ball, intercept, break quickly, I think we can cause Newcastle a lot of problems. And I think because of the fact the crowd will be where there's tension there already. So I think if anything goes against Newcastle tomorrow, I think the tension will ramp up. I think their players will be nervous before the game and they'll be low on confidence. So I think if we can get an early goal, it will change everything. Of course, if we don't get that early goal, I think the game becomes more difficult, as it has in the past, because Newcastle, with kind of a bit of a mental edge, because they know they can beat us at home.
Yeah.
And also the fact is, the longer the game goes on, they grow in confidence. But I think we'll get an early goal. I think I'd like to see Fabregas, Hazard, 2 players like that. Also, Matic to have a better game in terms of distribution. I think last week he was very good back to where he was in terms of intercepting the ball. It was just his distribution that wasn't as good. So hopefully he can have a bit more of that. Look, once again, solid defensively. Zuma, Cahill, whoever plays in that defence looks solid. Hopefully Baba Rahman and Azpilicueta can overlap and help out in attack if they play. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'd like to see Kennedy come off the bench. Hopefully, if we're winning the game comfortably, he can, and hopefully he'll have an impact. And also, whoever starts up front, hopefully can have a good game. I like to see Falcao start, because I think if he can get a goal, it will really bring up his confidence. I think his movement's there. I think he looks enthusiastic. It's just that fine finishing product. And I think if he can get that goal, considering Costa's going to be out for another, Actually, I think he'll be out for one more game after this, but Premier League game that is. But I think that Falcao to get a goal, I think that would be really good. Either Remy, because I think it would annoy the Newcastle fans. So that'd be cool.
Just a bit. Louis, your score prediction.
Well, Daniel, like Daniel's been saying, if our players carry through that form from Arsenal last week, so Matic, he does well, but increases and does better with his distribution. Yeah. And then if Falcao, like you're saying, gets in he does get in all the right positions. He just needs to get that finished product. He gets that finished product, he'll be a lot better. He'll be laughing, and he'll want more. Remy, obviously, but it's just a case of can we carry through the form from Arsenal, and I think we will. And can we bring it up against one of our bogey teams? So I'm going to say, touch wood, 2-1 Chelsea.
2-1. So you're going for quite a close scoreline, and for Newcastle to score.
I don't think we are. I don't think we're that solid defensively.
Yeah.
And I think playing players like Baba Rahman, who's great, and Azpilicueta, who like to go forward,
Yeah.
Well, Azpilicueta doesn't really, but if Baba Rahman does like to get down that left wing, there will be gaps, and it'll just be good to see how Kurt Zuma and Gary Cahill deal with them. Because personally, I watched 11 versus 11 against Arsenal, I thought we were okay, but there are a few moments where defensively I thought we looked a little bit shaky.
Yeah.
And it's a case of 11 versus 11. Can they do it? If they do it, fantastic. But I can't see us keeping a clean sheet.
Well, I mean, I think tomorrow, especially with their injury concerns, I think I agree with Dan. I'm going 3-0. I wouldn't be too surprised, as you said, if Newcastle do score. However, I think we'll go there, can comfortably win. Neither 3 points. Good day at the office. But hopefully we just don't screw it up, because as we've been saying, they're really out of form. It's a perfect time for us to exploit them, and I just hope we don't bottle it. Not against Newcastle, not now. We'll get some comments from everyone in the comment section. We've got Nathan saying Janmat has been their best attacking player recently, and he's a right back. So watch out for him. It's a good point. Didier, well, someone called Didier Drogba. How you doing, Dids? Cisse is a poacher. He only scores tap-ins, which, to be fair, he's quite a prolific goal scorer for Newcastle at least. But it's a good thing he's not playing tomorrow. Let's just say that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Who would be their starting striker then? Who do they have?
I don't know. Probably Mitrovic.
I think they'd start with Mitrovic.
Yeah, I think Mitrovic. Kennedy, talking about Mitrovic, has said Mitrovic might shock us, so our defense needs to be sharp, needs to be in shape.
That's exactly what I'm worried about, because I think Mitrovic could cause problems. Just his whole personality and the whole way he, like Dan's saying, he's an unhinged Diego Costa. If Gary Cahill and Kurt Zuma can deal with that, then I think we'll be okay. But if they struggle, he is going to be a massive issue if he plays tomorrow.
Hopefully he'll, like he has before, get an early yellow card. Because he'll
do a Costa.
But as I say, there's a massive difference between Mitrovic and Costa.
In reverse,
like it's just that I think it is about containing Mitrovic. I think Mitrovic, if he holds up the ball and can just play football, I think that and hold up the ball, let players like Sissoko come into play, try and get an overlap. Maybe we could have problems, but if Mitrovic, if Zuma and Cahill can withhold Mitrovic, whoever is playing in defence, can stop him getting the ball, can stop the ball in midfield, so he feels isolated up there against our defence, I think he'll maybe lash out or just won't do anything in the game. I think that's the problem. I think if we can isolate and really dominate the midfield and make it so there's a big gap between Mitrovic and Newcastle's midfield, I think that's a big positive, because we'll be having a lot of possession of the ball and allow the likes of Fabregas to come deep, get the ball, bring it forward. Of course, Fabregas can't really do that if they're pushing up on the pitch and we're giving them lots of space. Hopefully, that's if we can dominate the possession. I think that will help players like Fabregas and Oscar and Hazard and Pedro really dominate that kind of central kind of midfield area and really start to move around, and help out Falcao up front.
I agree. Tiote, who's obviously not playing tomorrow, but he's a hot topic in the comments at the moment. We've got Faro17 saying Tiote is ruled out as well. Bing Ring says Tiote is Diaby 2.0. Because of his injuries, and he's true, he's really injury prone.
Well, we went for him at one point, weren't we?
We were at one point, very slightly. But yeah, it's a good thing we don't have him, because it's proven to be true. He is Diaby 2.0. Didier has also put Tiote is a beast. Following that up, Kennedy has said Tiote is a mixture of Yaya Toure and Akinfenwa. Which, to be fair, physically is very true, because the guy, he can definitely hold his own. We've got quite a few score predictions, and they're all wins for Chelsea. We've got 2-1 to us from Didier. We've got 3-0, Bing Ring. We've got 5-0 to Chelsea, says Kennedy. 3-2 from James Carter. He thinks we're going to have a close game with them. Thomas says we're going to smash them 4-0.
Well, boys, I'd just like to point out the last 2 score predictions.
Yeah.
Who's got them right?
You.
Exactly.
But it won't be third time lucky.
Okay. We going to put something down on that?
Well, no, that's not.
Well, because it could. If it's third time lucky, am I just gonna have the whole time just chat afterwards, and I'll be going, I told you. You say.
Well, Harry puts in the comments, do you see Kennedy make an appearance tomorrow, given his performance during midweek? I do.
I completely agree. I do. Yeah, I think Kennedy could make an appearance. I think he will. If the games starting to look comfortable, I think that's when he'd bring on players like Loftus-Cheek and Kennedy. I don't think he'd bring them on if it wasn't looking comfortable. But I think he could make an appearance tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I think he will play. Whether he starts, I doubt it very much. When you got Hazard and Pedro and all those guys there, I don't think he'll start. But I think he might come on. Especially, as you said, if we're winning comfortably, I think the young boys will be thrown on. So, yeah, that is one. Mark has put Pedro's first hat-trick tomorrow. That would be a good shout. That would be a good shout.
I'd have to change the fantasy team, mate.
I got sent a stat that the Dino scored 10 goals in the last 3 games. They've all been scored by apparently 10 different players. Apparently, I don't know how good that stat was. I got sent it by someone on Twitter. So what is that? Who scored? So you got Willian, Oscar, Costa, Fabregas, Zuma, Hazard, Ramirez, Remy, who scored the third, Kennedy, and Pedro. So yeah, you got literally different scorers, 10 different scorers for our last 10 goals, which is really good.
I've just seen quite an interesting comment here. Kalu, how we might be in for an emergency keeper if Begovic gets injured. If this happens, then depending on the Premier League will accept our request. Victor Valdes is the name we've been linked with.
Yeah, no, I mean, apparently the Premier League have gone, yeah, you know what, if you want the move, it's there, it's available, no problem. Because yeah, we might actually be in for an emergency keeper. I don't think Begovic will get injured. It's quite rare for a keeper to get injured. However, it can happen, as we've seen with Courtois. The last time we had both keepers out completely, I can remember, was Cech and Cudicini.
Yeah, no.
They both got knocked out at Reading.
And then JT went in for a bit.
And yeah, JT went in goal. But yeah, the emergency keeper deal is there if we need it. But yes, Victor Valdes we've been linked with. I don't know. It's Victor Valdes. He's lost it.
No, has he though? I mean, come on, guys. He had one game at Manchester United, or a couple of games at Man United, and then
exactly.
When
was the last time he played?
The reason he doesn't play is because Louis van Gaal, he didn't handle the situation correctly. I feel that I understand why Valdes was annoyed, but I understand why Louis van Gaal decided to drop him. If you're kicking off because you weren't picked and you go to play in the under-21s, that's not on. But the fact that the guy is, he's a goalkeeper who, he has European pedigree. But it's a question of, if we brought him in, we'd then have Victor Valdes, Begovic, Thibaut Courtois.
True.
One of those players is never, ever, ever going to play for Chelsea. And it's just a case of who's that going to be.
No, that's true. I mean, with Victor Valdes, it's a whole situation. We remember his last few games at Barcelona, or his last, let's say, half season at Barcelona. The guy was lost. He was getting criticised left, right, and centre. He was making stupid mistakes like Robert Greenwood. The guy was completely out of it. Ended up going out of Barcelona. Still couldn't find form. Found himself at United. Still can't find any form. He's not being played, let alone. So for him to make that move to the champions, right? And yeah, he might get a bit of game time, not a lot. I just don't think he'll be set in properly. His heart won't be in it.
It's only 2 months Courtois out for, so it's not like he's out for 5 months. I mean, Czech was out for an extended period of time. It was literally, I think he came back in February and was injured in early to mid October. So that's an extended period of time that he's out for. I think Cudicini was as well. So the fact that Courtois is going to be back probably maybe by early December, probably could be earlier than that, maybe. You know, hopefully with our medical staff, you know, we get him back early. You know, I don't think there's a point unless Begovic gets injured, but I can't see that happening. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Mark has put in the comments, Costa in for goalkeeper. He'd do an amazing job, don't you think? Just stick him in goal.
It's when you have a corner and someone starts marking the keeper, you just give him a death stare, and it'll be like, okay, I'll go over here. So
he's now allowed to use gloves. Like he'd be free to kind of like just punch. You know, like you can imagine, and then he'd like fall over and be like, ref. Because as we know now, anytime a keeper gets fouled in the box or touched in the box, that's it. It's a free kick. So he'd probably have a tussle with the opposition player, and then just like he'd get the free kick as well.
Yeah, no, that's true.
He'd turn up when they say gloves. He wouldn't turn up with keeper gloves. He'd turn up with a pair of boxing gloves. Like,
knowing Costa, knuckle dusters.
Knuckle dusters.
I mean,
barbed wire stuck around the boxing gloves.
Bingring has put obviously about the emergency keeper loan deal. Knowing the FA, they'll just say no to us afterwards. Which, to be fair, wouldn't be surprising, would it?
No, it wouldn't be.
No,
that's the sad truth, isn't it?
It is. It is.
God, we sound so butthurt. It's so annoying.
Well, no. Last few comments. Is Raj has put, yeah, Courtois is coming back from a knee injury. He can't just hit the ground running, which is true, to be fair. Knee is one of the most delicate places for any footballer, regardless of what position. If your knee's damaged, you know, you've knocked off 50% of what you can do, for sure.
Yeah.
And for a goalkeeper who knows, has to dive, has to jump immaculate heights, the knee is an important place. It's true. Courtois won't be back 100% when he does make his return. So that's one thing to bear in mind.
When you do damage your knee, though, you never come back the same player.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I do. You know, I said that about Falcao when he first joined. You know, I wasn't convinced. I'm still not convinced, but I'm more convinced. I'm almost there going, I think he's a good standing striker, Radamel Falcao, but he's not exactly like the go-to guy anymore. Right. You have Costa ahead of him. Yeah. But Thibaut Courtois, if he gets in and he starts playing, you've just got to see how it goes. Because it could be, I could be completely wrong. He comes back, he's fine, back to normal, everything's cool. But if he doesn't, and he has to change his style for the diving, like you're saying, and the jumping, we could see a different man. And
I think as well, Louis. Like I've seen with other, you talk about Falcao, you talk about. I think when players have extended knee injuries, I think that's a big problem. I think if they have long injuries, I think that can have a mental impact on players. I think probably, you know, I think Courtois 2 months is a long time in football, but it's not as long as some other injuries I've seen. I know it's a serious injury, and I can understand what you're saying, but it's not exactly. You see players, they maybe are out for 5 or 6 months, and and it's just like they can lose all of their form. I'm not saying that won't happen to Courtois, and I'm not saying he'll come back and be exactly the same player, but I think as well goalkeepers and strikers are very different. Different styles of players.
Sorry, remember with Courtois, I mean, he didn't damage his knee to the point where that's it, he's got a serious injury. They saw something and they were like, we have to operate on it. So they had to put out a surgical procedure. Because of that surgery, that's why he's out for 2 months. But his knee isn't damaged to the point where he's got a major injury. That's not the issue. So, you know, they've had to just do some surgery on the knee. It heals up. You know, it heals up. But there's no actual crazy damage to the knee, which is reassuring, at least.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying about, goalkeeper try being very different, Daniel. But whatever position it is, like you're saying, knee is a delicate place to be injured. So we'll see what it's like when he comes back. And I agree, it's not extended, it's not extensive, but the guy's all you have to say is he's injured his knee.
Yeah.
And that's enough for me to feel a little bit uneasy about. He'll be back, but it's just a case of how do we feed him back in slowly instead of going right. Starting keeps back. Let's go.
Yeah, and, that's a matter of time. We'll have to see when he does come back in a couple of months. Last comment from Mitchell, and this is an interesting one to end on. The reason Jose has to continue to play Ivanovic is to keep his confidence high. You English fans are so negative that it affects Branner's confidence. Trust Jose, trust Ivanovic. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree?
Trust me, Ivanovic's legs are gone. Use your brain instead of going. It's great thinking with your heart. It's great. I like. Sometimes you have to think with your heart, but there are other times when you have to think with your head. Right now, I'm thinking with my head and seeing Ivanovic, and he's been playing since pre-season. Other than against Arsenal, I have not been convinced. His legs have gone. He still thinks he can bomb forward. Against Arsenal, he was great. I surrender that. But if he doesn't do well against Newcastle and he goes back to his old self, he needs to be dropped. Dan's just grinning at me, going Louis.
But yeah.
But could I just respond? Like, I think that. I think it feeds into another point. I think I was talking about in one of my videos when I talk about Arsenal, and I had Arsenal fans coming up to me after the game going, I remember I didn't actually get to answer the question because I think Louis jumped in and because of course wanted to say his piece about Ivanovic. And it was like basically the Arsenal fans were like, is now Ivanovic kind of world class after this game, back to being world class? And no, because the 5 games previous to it he was playing absolutely awful. And to be fair, one game doesn't make up for, he has to play well for the next 5 games. But I think it's good to have competition. Before the Arsenal game, I didn't want him in the team.
No.
After the Arsenal game, that doesn't mean now he's the first choice right back and he's got no problems and all of our problems are fixed.
Back to his best.
Back to his best. That's not the way football works. Hopefully, he's got a slap around the face, but. I do agree with Lou. I think that you still need to play players like Baba Rahman for a reason. You brought him in for a reason. Pat Azpilicueta out there for games like this where maybe Ivanovic can be beaten for pace. He wasn't against one of the quickest players last week in Sanchez. Did really well, but this game's going to be very different to the one against Arsenal. As I say, the tactics against Arsenal were to sit deep and play on the counter. This is Chelsea have got to play on the front foot, and maybe in games, big games where you're sitting back, it's kind of tense, where you don't have to bomb forward and take loads of risks. Maybe Ivanovic is a better player to have because he's so experienced in those type of games and you aren't bombing forward. But in games where you have to take the front foot and you can't sit back against lower teams in the league, where you have to take more risks because you're a bigger team, maybe Ivanovic isn't the best player for those situations because you can get done on the counter, and
that's how I was proving against Palace.
Yeah, it was well. It's been against
Palace, Swansea,
Everton. It's been every game other than the Arsenal game, and even in midweek, I don't think he played that great.
Yeah,
even Russell. I mean, he was making Lalkovic look like Montero, which isn't good. So as I say, I'd probably go with Baba Rahman and Azpilicueta because I think they help with the pace and also can overlap. Both of them can overlap because Azpi playing in his favourite position. So that's what I do. But I definitely don't think that we were being, maybe Louis, but I wasn't being too harsh on Ivanovic. I stayed behind him after the Swansea game. I said, listen, he's still a quality right back. 4 or 5 games later, when he's still playing awful, I have to change my opinion because I'm thinking.
What I did.
He's not.
I just did it a lot more.
No, you did it after the Swansea game. You did it after the Swansea game. You were like,
I did not.
"Oh, he's clearly lost his legs here."
I said I think he's lost his legs. I actually formulated and had a hard opinion after the Crystal Palace game, and we all saw how hard my opinion was then. So let's just put that out there, lads. All right. I am not convinced right now. If you want to start having a go at me about that, Daniel, be my guest. But mate.
No, I don't disagree with you that Ivanovic has been playing awful, because he has up to the Arsenal game, where luckily for some reason he turned up.
Yeah.
It was some sort of miracle that he decided, okay, now on the biggest game of the season, I'm going to decide to turn up. Thank God he obviously woke up on the right side of the bed on that morning. Maybe had probably someone next to him, but
Eva.
Yeah, maybe that helped him.
Sorry, boys.
I definitely think he should be tested now, and he should have competition for his place, because he hasn't played well enough. One game doesn't make up for everything he's done in the past so far this season.
I mean, that's true. That is true. I mean, even for 17 here, it said, I never like to slate players, but Branner's legs as a fullback are gone. His positioning is horrible. He's always standing where the central defenders are, and that's not really something massive to debate with, because Ivanovic is naturally a centre back. So it's not surprising that he finds himself back in that centre back role, because that is his natural position. And as I agree here, his legs as a fullback are gone. He's naturally going to find himself back in that position. That way he doesn't have to do so much running. I think Baba and Aspi are just a safer, much more assuring bet to go with, that can bomb forward and can track back with the pace they have and make it back in time, to be fair. So hopefully we play them tomorrow. You guys agree?
Yep. I totally agree.
Awesome. Okay. Well, those are all of your comments. Thank you for leaving them. Our score predictions, we're obviously going 3-0. Dan's going 3-0. Louis going 2-1. Louis been correct previous 2 games. So is it third time lucky? We'll find out after tomorrow's game. Anyway.
No, actually, no, I'm sticking with it. I was going to say, can I change my prediction? But I'm going to stick with it.
Go on. You feel free. Game hasn't started.
Right, I'm gonna put both of them down. Okay, so I can be wrong completely.
1-0.
No, I'm not a muppet. Come on, leave it out. No, right. 2-1 or 3-1. There are my 2 predictions.
Well, you can't make 2 bets now.
Yeah, I just did. What are you going to do about it?
It's like me going, I think it's going to be 1-0. No, I think it's going to be 2-0. It might be 3-0 or possibly 3-1, maybe 4-0. And then whatever happens, I'm right.
But I've only put 2 down. I can put another 6 down if you want, mate. That's fine.
Well, anyway, the Chelsea win. That's the most important thing, correct?
Yeah, hell yeah, definitely.
Sweet. Anyway, thank you. If you said no, you're throwing off the channel. Thank you all for watching, guys. Be sure to follow these guys on Twitter. Great banter. We've got at Son of Chelsea and his channel Son of Chelsea. At Louis the Boogaloo, which is Louis. Do check them out. Follow all the 100% Chelsea social media links in the description below. Subscribe to 100% Chelsea if you are new. And come on the Blues, let's do the business over at St James's Park for the first time in the league under Mourinho. Fingers crossed. Hope to see all of you guys soon. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and you guys can sign out and say goodbye.
See you later, guys. Thanks for stopping by.
See you, lads.